Hi, everyone. This is Chris Williams from Congresswoman Mikie Sherrill's office. Thank you for joining us today. We're excited to talk about the NJEDA's new grant program for small businesses. We have a few speakers today. We have Congresswoman Sherrill, Tim Sullivan, the NJEDA CEO, and Kelly Brzezina of the New Jersey Small Business Development Council. We're going to have the speakers go first, and then the NJEDA staff will walk you through the program. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen, and we can get to those at the end of the program. And without further ado, I'll hand it over to the Congresswoman.
Thanks, Chris, and hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Congresswoman Mikie Sherrill, and I'm pleased to be joined today by the NJEDA, and they're going to walk you through details about the third tranche of funding through their Small Business Emergency Assistance Grant Program, how to pre-register and how to apply. This third phase is funded by $70 million of federal funds from the CARES Act. So I'm especially happy to see this money going to good use and to be holding this webinar to help get more of that money to our small businesses in NJ11. My team and I have been working with hundreds of small businesses throughout this pandemic, and your input through conversations, roundtables, and our surveys has been invaluable to me and my advocacy in Washington, and to my team as well. We have a great team of experts joining us here today and to answer your questions about the latest phase of the NJEDA program. First, I'd like to welcome Tim Sullivan, who's the CEO of the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. I really appreciate all the programs NJEDA has been putting in place to help our small businesses, and Tim, your willingness to join us to discuss them has really been invaluable. You've been a regular on my town halls and always have great information to share. I know you have John Costello from NJEDA with you as well to present on the details of this phase 3 program after our opening remarks. So thanks to John for being here. We also have Kelly Brzezina, who is the new CEO and State Director of the New Jersey Small Business Development Centers. It's great to have you with us this morning and nice to meet you, even though it's virtually. We're here today because phase 3 of the Small Business Grant Program is open to a wider range of businesses and is providing larger grants. We're also here today because NJEDA expects significant interest in applying for the grants, and the state has set up a multi-step process to streamline applications, which includes a requirement to pre-register that we want to make sure everyone understands. I know that NJEDA is working to target these grants to the most need, like our restaurant industry and our smallest businesses, but I'll leave it to them to get you all the details. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Tim. Tim, we can't hear you. Yep.
Frozen is going to pop in the background here, so bear with me. Hopefully. Thanks, Congresswoman, for having us and for hosting this, and for the kind words. Congress is doing to dollars back in Jersey that really bad news. So thank you for that. On behalf of Murphy, our entire team, thank you, everyone.
Tim, I'm afraid you're still really garbled.
If I move a bit, I can scream a little louder. Any better?
That sounds better. Yep.
Okay. That might have been the Disney Corporation sending Frozen into the webinar. So sorry about that. Challenges of co-parenting during a pandemic, all very fun. So I was saying, on behalf of Governor Murphy and our entire team inside the state government, wanted to say thanks and to Congresswoman Sherrill for hosting this, and to her team for bringing this together, and for everything that Congress is doing to support small businesses. We could sure as heck need some more. I know one of the houses of Congress that the Congresswoman sits in passed a whole bunch of money for small business. The other one hasn't yet, so hopefully that'll get figured out. I'll leave that to others to work on. Governor Murphy said from the outset, obviously, first and foremost, this is a public health crisis, what we're dealing with in terms of COVID and what's going on around the country and going on around the state. Is a reminder that this is by no means over. We're still right in the middle of this. We're in better shape and we're better prepared than we were in March. by
Here. Oh, there you go.
disproportionately by small businesses and disproportionately. And so we really tried to focus our efforts on supporting those kinds of businesses and those types of firms. In this round of funding, the $70 million that the governor, the Senate president, lieutenant governor last week, we're targeting restaurants and micro businesses in particular, businesses with 5 or fewer employees. Something like 90% of all minority-owned businesses are some form of micro business, either a sole proprietorship or a single member LLC. And so those are where funds are really needed most. And so we're thrilled to be out here getting the word out. If you take one thing away, and hopefully, I know I've had some trouble being heard here. If you take one thing away from this webinar, as the Congresswoman said, there is a pre-registration process and it is mandatory. If you do not pre-register, you cannot apply. Pre-registration is open right now at cv.business.nj.gov. We've had about 12,000 or 13,000 businesses pre-register already. That doesn't mean you're too late. This is not first come, first serve for the pre-registration process. You just got to sign up between now and Tuesday afternoon. So please, if you're thinking about applying, you've got to pre-register. With that, I'll yield the floor back to you, Congresswoman.
Well, thanks so much. And if you have further questions after this, I know Chris will be happy to answer them about some of the details. Now I'm going to hand it over to Kelly. And Kelly, I'm going to apologize. I might have to leave in the middle of your talk. I have to head to an update on Operation Warp Speed because, of course, getting a vaccine in place and distributed as quickly and safely as possible is obviously critical to us getting our economy fully reopened. So I want to make sure I'm up to speed on that. But thank you so much for being here. And I'm going to turn it over to Kelly.
Great, thank you. Very nice to virtually meet you as well. It's a weird time that I guess this is how we build relationships now, is through Zoom and WebEx and all of that. Thank you for letting me sit at the table at this point. The Small Business Development Center in New Jersey has been around for many, many, many years. I am really, really thrilled that we are a partner at the table and that we're going to be working with the businesses that are most affected. Our sweet spot of working with businesses are really 10 or less, and quite honestly, 5 or less is the reality of what we serve. And so we are really targeting those micro businesses. We see the devastation of the restaurants. We see the devastation of all service industries. And we want to be a resource to help and support and be a good partner, both with the state of New Jersey, all of the counties, all the local governments, but especially the small businesses. We are here to serve them. So I'm really excited to be here. We're working on putting some programs together, very, very specific to assist those businesses that are affected the most and devastated the most through the COVID virus. And honestly, you know, we received some CARES Act funds as well through our national association. So in partner with this project or this funding that the governor was so gracious to designate, especially down to the small business and the micro businesses, we're thrilled to be a partner and to work with both the African American Chamber, the Hispanic Chamber, and all the other partners that we have across the board. We're here as a team. It takes a village, and I'm just really thrilled to be part of that village that's going to help the New Jersey economy and also these businesses to not only stay in business but hopefully thrive. So thank you again, and I'm really glad to be seated at the table. So thanks.
Thanks, Kelly. And with that, we will turn it over to John Costello of the NJEDA to go over the details of the grant program. Thanks, John.
Sorry about that little minor difficulty. Hi, Chris, good afternoon. Thank you for having us on. My name is John Costello. I'm with the Economic Development Authority, and I just wanted to echo again, thanks for inviting us to speak to the constituents of the 11th District, and thanks to Congresswoman Sherrill for all of her great work in helping to get funding for the state of New Jersey, as well as for our close friends at the Small Business Development Councils, led by Kelly, who have been doing just amazing work educating New Jersey businesses and in the Byzantine nature of federal paperwork. So thank you very much there. I want to, so next slide, please. So the New Jersey Economic Development Authority has been worked hand in glove with our federal, state, and local partners on economic relief packages for COVID-affected small businesses. As you can see, we've started with, this is our third phase grant program. In our first two phases, we helped over 20,000 small businesses receive just shy of $60 million in grant funding to help them in their operating costs. For businesses that needed a little bit more, we helped over 137 of them with $9.3 million worth of a loan package for businesses that needed a little bit more capital. We worked with our community development finance institutions, great locally focused funding for businesses, 258 of them. Our entrepreneur support program, which is really aimed at those angel stage tech and life sciences companies, 12 companies that are leading in development of technology, life sciences, across the state of New Jersey. We were able to provide up to $2.3 million worth of supporting investment capital for them for 12 companies. And then last but not least, working in conjunction with our partners at the Hispanic Chamber, the African American Chamber, the Veterans Chamber, and Rising Tide Capital, we were able to help 447 businesses with funding for their SBA application. So really, really pleased with that. Next slide, please. Overall, the big picture number, 21,000 businesses, $76 million out the door to help small businesses in the state of New Jersey as of the 16th, and this number is going to be growing more. Next slide, please. Why are we doing this? As part of Governor Murphy and Lieutenant Governor Oliver's vision, we want to do two things. We want to ensure equity, make sure that New Jersey businesses that have been disproportionately hit are able to get that funding that they need, and increasing accessibility, that those businesses that have been traditionally disinvested in are able to get this capital that's so desperately needed in the most impacted and disinvested communities. And how are we seeing this? First one is 20% of our funding through phase 2 has gone to minority-owned businesses. That's African American, Latinx businesses. 23% of these businesses that we've helped have been women-owned businesses, and then 2% comes from our veteran community to whom we owe so much. Another part of this is 36% of the grants approved in phase 2 were for businesses in Opportunity Zone eligible census tracts. These 715 census tracts are some of the most disinvested communities in the state of New Jersey, so making sure that the businesses there are able to acquire funding is an important component of what we want to do. Next slide, please. So down to the nuts and bolts. What does this look like? On a big picture, we have a $70 million funding pool. 33% of this or about $23.3 million is going to be set aside for Opportunity Zone eligible census tracts and the businesses located in there by each bucket. So where does this look different? As a learning organization, one of the things we've tried to do through our first and second tier of grant programs is learn from where we can help businesses better. So what did we do in this one? We did 3 big focus changes. First off, our expanded eligibility. In some cases, businesses as high as 50 FTEs will be eligible to apply for this grant package. The second is our award size. Our max award size in the previous grant programs started at 5, went to 10. Now we're up to $20,000 for an award. The third thing is a targeted funding. This is an important part. Recognizing through research and analysis through our economic analysis team, through working with our partners at the federal, state, and local level, we see that while there's a great need everywhere, there's a massive need in 2 specific communities. Our restaurant community, restaurants, bars, cafes, caterers, businesses that have really been impacted by the lack of traffic due to the CDC precautions that everybody needs to take to make sure that we can combat this disease. And then also with micro businesses with below 5 FTEs. We also changed it directly in our administration, in that, to reiterate what Tim says, everybody has to pre-register. This is an open pre-registration that can be done at any time. And what it does is it sets you up to apply very quickly. So how does this work? Starting on October the 19th through Tuesday, October 27th, businesses are able to pre-register at cv.business.nj.gov. The pre-registration at cv.business.nj.gov helps you set up for your application. You're going to be able to apply on 3 different dates. Restaurants, and we're going to go into this in more detail. Restaurants up to 50 FTEs will be able to apply on October the 29th. Micro businesses or businesses with under 5 FTEs will be able to apply on Friday the 30th. And then everybody else, that's non-restaurants and businesses between 6 and 50 FTEs on Monday, November 2nd. Next slide, please. We've separated it out into 3 different buckets of funding. So how do these buckets look? The first one that we want to concentrate on is restaurants. So how does this look? $35 million in a total funding pool. Of this, 1/3, 33%, set aside for Opportunity Zone eligible census tracts for restaurants in there. What does this grant cover? Operating expenses up to $20,000 for restaurants with 50 or fewer full-time equivalents. We're going to go in how you're going to be able to calculate that. We have access to that on cv.business.nj. How does a business see if it's eligible for this? One of the things we're going to do, this is going to be isolated to businesses classified in NAICS code 722. That's restaurants. That's restaurants, food service, drinking places. So restaurants, bars, cafes, caterers, snack bars, businesses in that category will be eligible to apply under the 722 code. There's also going to be a couple other things that are going to be universal across the board. Business has to have a physical location in the state of New Jersey, have to be registered to do business in the state of New Jersey, have to be in good standing with labor, fill out a legal debarment questionnaire, certified a negative impact that your business has been impacted by by COVID-19, and then last but not least, has to have been in operation by 15 February 2020. Those 6 bullet points are going to be universal across this. What is the award structure going to look like? It's a graduated award structure based on business sector and size. Restaurants with 5 or fewer FTEs, your grant award up to $10,000. 6 to 25 FTEs, up to $15,000, and 26 to 50 employees, up to $20,000. To reiterate this again, businesses need to be pre-registered. Registration is open from the 19th through Tuesday, the 27th. And then application, this is the actual applying for the grant, will be open to restaurants first on Thursday, October 29th at 9 a.m. All right, next slide, please. The second business sector we wanted to focus on is micro businesses. There's small businesses, the smallest businesses in the state of New Jersey, those with under 5 employees that help drive entrepreneurship, community wealth building, and the American dream. We've set aside $15 million for these businesses, with 1/3 set aside for Opportunity Zone eligible census tracts. Once again, they have to meet those 6 criteria: physical location in the state of New Jersey State Business Registration, good standing with labor, certified legal debarment, certified negative impact, and operation as of 15 February 2020. They'll be eligible for a $5,000 grant. They'll also have to pre-register as well. And the applications for these businesses will open on October 30th. Next slide, please. The third one is every other small business. One of the things we recognize is that our cap at 20 businesses was too small and still showed a need for significant numbers of help to New Jersey small businesses. This is a $20 million pool for businesses between 6 and 50 full-time equivalent employees. Once again, has to meet all the criteria that, like before. Businesses of between 6 and 25 FTEs will be eligible for $10,000, 26 to 50 FTEs for $15,000. And their application date opens on the 2nd. So next slide. So once again, the pre-registration is an open date. You can do it at any time. You can fill it out. We're going to walk through that. That's going to be open from the 19th through the 27th. The 29th starts and then we're going to have a little bit of a lag, and then application starts for restaurants first, then micro businesses. So restaurants on the 29th, micro businesses on the 30th, and then all other businesses up to 50 FTEs on Monday, November 2nd. One of the things we also wanted to do, and it's an essential part of Governor Murphy and Lieutenant Governor Oliver's plan, is to increase equity and access. And how did we do that? First thing we did is we made sure the most disinvested communities were able to get funding on this. So one of the things we did was we made sure that 1/3 of all Phase 3 funding dollars went to Opportunity Zone eligible communities, the most impacted communities in the state of New Jersey. There is a link on the portal to see if your business sits in an Opportunity Zone eligible tract. This is 715 census tracts in the most impacted communities in the state of New Jersey. The other thing is that we wanted to make sure that this is available to every New Jersey business owner. The application and the portal at cv.business.nj.gov are bilingual in both English and Spanish. We've also contracted application services to make sure that business owners who speak Arabic, Mandarin or Cantonese, Gujarati, Hindi, Italian, Korean, Polish, Portuguese, and Tagalog all have access to this application. They have translated versions, and then we also have language help centers where those business owners will be able to request language help from the NJEDA at languagehelp@njeda.com. Next slide, please. All right, and as you can see, just some examples. All right, getting into the nuts and bolts of it. Phase 3 required information. What is a business owner going to need to make sure that his or her business is going to be ready to do the pre-registration? So a couple things. Preparation is going to be key. Making sure that you've reviewed the sample application on the COVID business portal, cv.business.nj, making sure that you have contact information ready to go, and your address, and then also having an idea of what your funding has been. Make sure all of those are ready to go. You're also going to need to have this information, which we're going to cover in greater detail. Business's legal name, your entity type, how are you set up? Are you sole prop, C Corp, S Corp, LLC? The year you were established, your tax ID number. This is an important one. Your employment numbers between the first quarter of 2019 through second quarter of 2020. So this is basically how many employees did you have each quarter for those 6 quarters, starting with January 2019, going through June of 2020. Your North American Industry Classification Code. How are you seen by the IRS? And then last but not least, your 2019 annual revenue, plus an estimate by you on on revenue lost through COVID-19. Next slide, please. All right, the sample pre-registration. So just to get an idea. Next slide. Business owner, I can't emphasize it enough. You need to pre-register in order to apply. Please make sure that you're pre-registered. Registration, like we said, opened on Monday the 19th, closes Tuesday the 27th at the end of business. So you have until 5 o'clock on Tuesday the 27th. This site, though, is open 24/7 during that time. So if you are somebody who wants to get this done at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday, you're good to go. If you want to work on this over the weekend, at night, during lunchtime, it's open 24 hours a day from up until 5 o'clock on Tuesday, October 27th. You will have to be pre-registered for Tuesday, October 27th. The pre-registration will then lead into your application, and then that will mean that you will need to go back into the portal. For restaurants, Tuesday, October the 29th at 9 a.m., restaurants will have to go back in. Micro businesses will have to go in on Friday, October 30th. And then on small businesses, we'll have to go in on Monday the 2nd at 9 a.m. All of these applications open at 9 a.m. If I can say one thing, after the pre-registration, make sure that your pre-registration is completed fully, and be sure to be ready at 8:55 for your application. All right, next slide, please. All right, how does it look? You have to log in and create a registration. Create a username and a password. Next slide, please. Your username and the password is pretty typical. You're going to have to enter your email. You're going to have to enter a username and a password, just like you would for multiple other sites that we've all joined. But remember to come in with your username and password. Next slide, please. Okay. Once you've completed that, you're going to have to come in and set up a little profile. That means your name, email, phone number, and then other organizational information. First name, last name, and phone number is mandatory, and your email address will be the primary point of contact for you. So remember, please use an email address and as a secondary contact, the phone number best associated with your business, or the one that you as a business owner or as a business manager most frequently check. Next slide, please. All right, confirming your email. After you sign in, you're going to get a confirmation email. This confirmation email will basically allow you to start the pre-registration process. Please be aware that there is a lag in between you registering your profile. That means making sure that you have your email address, your phone number, your name, and have selected a password and your username. This does take some time. There is a little bit of a lag, so just be aware. If it doesn't come right away, give it a little bit of time. But once you get this, you'll be able to come in and then register from here. You'll have to confirm your email. Once you confirm your email, it's going to come back, and you're going to be ready to open the pre-registration. Next slide, please. And what does pre-registration look like? I'm going to give you a quick walkthrough. And this is screenshots from our test sandbox of the pre-registration. So next slide, please. You're going to need to fill out your contact information: first name, last name, business title. It's going to website and phone number if you have them. It's going to ask you for 3 questions. Are you an authorized signer? Basically, do you have some kind of authority with the company? Are you an owner? Are you a member of the executive team that's ready, willing, and able to sign off on business decisions for the company? We're going to need to have your legally registered business name. What's the name on your taxes? And then second, what's your doing business as name? So it's, like I said, you're going to need to have that legal business name. That's usually the one that's on the taxes, it's on the business registration, on any documentation to and from government entities. Next slide, please. You're going to have to put in your street address. With your street address, this is the physical location where you do business or the headquarters of your company. This can be a home, this can be a retail location, a storefront, a workshop, something like that. But it will need to be a physical address. Fill that in. It's going to ask you 2 questions. Is this a commercial location? Like we said, this is open to home-based businesses. So you're going to have to identify if it's a commercial location or if it's a home-based business. But it will need to be a physical address. We've had several questions about PO boxes. PO boxes aren't acceptable. We'll need a physical address. Next slide, please. We're going to need some operational details. When was it established? When was it operational? Is your business in operation today? And what's the ownership structure? Are you a sole proprietor, LLC, C Corp, S Corp? If you are something other than a sole proprietorship or a single member LLC, you will have to list any owners with a greater than 10% interest in the company. All right, next slide, please. We're going to need some details. The employer identification number. This is the number that the businesses will use to fill out their tax forms. So we will need a copy of that. We're going to need to certify. You're going to need to certify that you have current New Jersey business registration. How can you do that? The link at the bottom will be able to direct you to the Department of Taxation site to see if your business, if you're properly registered with the state of New Jersey to do business. If you are not properly and fully registered, the EDA shall require full repayment. So make sure that you check that important detail. It's going to ask how does if your business files as a sole proprietorship or single member LLC under your personal taxes, how is that, what is the social security number that's filed under? The next question is going to be about your labor. Does your business file the WR-30? So that is the New Jersey state tax form. You're going to have to be in full compliance with your New Jersey state tax regulations if you do. And then last but not least, do you utilize a PEO or professional employment organization to file your WR-30s? Do you use an outside payroll company in some way, shape, or form? Next slide, please. More on the pre-registration, details that you're going to need to cover. The number of full-time employees that you reported on your first quarter 2020 or first quarter or second quarter 20 WR-30. So whatever you have reported, either your first quarter or your second quarter, WR30, if you're something other than a sole proprietorship, you're going to have to report. You're going to have to report the number of part-time employees listed on your WR30 as opposed to full-time. If you have contracted employees through 1099s, list them either as full-time or as part-time. And then last but not least, what's your annual revenue look like for 2019? So, and then the revenue is going to be categorized as your top line sales from regular business operations. Next slide, please. Again, with the taxation question, what's your taxation status in the state of New Jersey? Please let us know. You're going to need to have filed taxes. Was it in 2018? And we understand that there's been delays in tax filing, that people have filed extensions. We just need to know the most recent year. Were you able to file for the 2018 taxes, 2019 taxes, or is there something else that may be in play? We just need to know that. Next slide, please. Making sure that we hit the community, making sure that we hit those communities that we want to. We want to make sure that this money is getting to those most impacted businesses. And to help us really understand this, we need to collect data, and this will help us. This will help us make sure that we're hitting those businesses that are owned by minorities, by women, by veterans, by disabled New Jerseyans. And we ask that while it's voluntary, we really would like to get some of this information to make sure that we're working with those communities to make sure that those businesses survive. Next slide, please. Business category. This is the one that's going to be really important, especially as a categorized for restaurants. Remember, with the restaurants, only businesses, food service or drinking establishments in the 722 code will be allowed to apply under the restaurant bucket. So it's 722. And that includes restaurants, bars, taverns, cafes, coffee shops, snack bars, catering, and some caterers and catering. But that NICS code is going to be important. So in the previous 6 quarters, what was your highest employment? What was the most FTEs that you had? In that highest quarter, when you had the most people on your payroll, did you file a WR30? So with your busiest time, when did you file a WR30? We need to know that. In your highest quarter above, how many full-time W-2 employees were reported? So we need to know. We're going to need to know that to help determine what the funding level is going to be. So like I said, the quarter you had your highest employment, did you file a WR30? And then of those WR30 employees, how many were? What's your full-time equivalent? Next slide. I'm going to show you a little bit later how we're going to figure that out, but we do have access to what's called a full-time equivalent calculator on our cv.business.nj.gov website. All right. We have to ask questions about business eligibility. So there are certain sin businesses that are excluded from eligibility, and they include businesses that are involved in gambling, businesses that are involved in adult activities, businesses that are, auctions, bankruptcy sale, fire sale businesses, transient businesses like pop-up stores, outdoor storage companies that think Christmas tree, think of a Christmas tree lot, businesses that conduct a nuisance, and then businesses that conduct any illegal purpose. So that means if your business is illegal federally, it would constitute under that. Next slide, please. And then last but not least, you're going to have to certify to all of this electronically. We want to streamline this process as much as we can. You're going to have to certify to be bound by electronic signatures, that you're an authorized signer, and then sign off. Next slide, please, Rachel. This is the email that you're going to get. Once you've seen this email, you know that you're fully registered. From here, this completes your pre-registration. This will then allow you to go in on application day at 9:30 and apply for your NJEDA third tranche grant. This lets you know that pre-registration is finished. Once again, pre-registration needs to be completed by Tuesday, October 27th at 5 p.m. This pre-registration is open 24/7 up to 5 p.m. Tuesday, the 27th, and it's a requirement for you to apply for the grant. Next slide, please. All right. In that application, they're going to ask you just a couple other additional questions that you're going to need to answer. Was your business an essential business as defined by the governor? If your business is a nonprofit, what kind of nonprofit is it? To what capacity was your business able to reopen? And what we mean by that is that when your business was able to reopen, how much was it able to do business in the way that it did business before? What other COVID-19 assistance have you received from federal, state, local authorities, from insurances, from nonprofit groups? What was your revenue loss? This is an estimate based on COVID-19. So based on the business that you did in previous years, how does COVID time look for your business? Do you have any, what's your additional financial need look like after you would receive this assistance? And then what will the grant proceeds be used for? Next slide, please. To figure out that question about FTEs, we have a grant size estimator that's available on stevie.business.nj.gov. It'll allow you to put in. It'll allow you to put in to determine whether if you're a restaurant, how that goes in, because that's going to determine the award amount. It's going to allow you to put in your employee wages, and it'll tell you the FTE equivalents. That'll give you an idea of how many FTEs you have in that business. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. A little bit of a technical difficulty. So while we're going through this, just other two programs we did want to talk about. So this gives you an overview of what the pre-registration is going to look like, and then leading it into leading from pre-registration that needs to be completed by Tuesday, October 27th. The other 3 dates, restaurants are able to apply on the 29th. Small businesses under five FTEs or under on the 30th, on Friday the 30th. So that's Thursday the 29th for restaurants, which is any business in that 722 code. Micro businesses, 5 employees and under, are able to apply on Friday the 30th. And then everybody else, businesses with 6 or more employees that aren't restaurants, up to 50 employees are going to be able to apply on Monday the 2nd. And remember, in each one of those buckets, 1/3 of each one of those buckets is going to be specifically devoted to businesses that are physically located in OZ eligible census tracts, 715 of them across the state of New Jersey. The 2 other programs we really did want to talk about are our microbusiness PPE program. This makes sure that the smallest New Jersey businesses have access to PPE that they need to reopen. In our phase 1, we have a planning tool. We have a designated vendor list where businesses can go and apply for a 10% discount through any of our vetted designated vendors. We're providing $3.5 million in funding to New Jersey manufacturers of PPE and adding on vendors continuously. The second phase, which we hope to launch either later this month or early next month, is going to be another $20 million in grant funding to help small New Jersey businesses get PPE they need. We're going to add discounts outside of the grant funding to PPE purchases for businesses for under 100 FTEs. It's going to be up to $400 per company is this discount. We're going to have boosts for Opportunity Zone eligible census tracts using our designated vendors, and the grant funds are automatically applied. You don't have to apply for them. If you qualify, you will be able to access them immediately. Next slide, Rach. And I did want to mention one other program. We are launching a pilot program to help micro businesses grow in their capacity. We're providing consulting and business services for selected New Jersey firms with under 5 to help them build out their capacities in finance, accounting, human resources management, and in product supply chain logistics. We're really excited about this to help some of our smallest businesses meet the demands for both COVID and in the future. So really excited there. This ends our component part of the presentation, and you know, I'm open for questions, and I'm going to hand it back over to Chris and to the Congresswoman Sherrill's team with thanks for the opportunity to speak.
Thanks, John. That was great. We really appreciate it, and thank you for being here. We're going to get to your questions now. Before that, we want to apologize. We know there were some technical difficulties in getting on at the beginning of the presentation. We've recorded the presentation, and we're happy to share it with you and follow up to make sure you have the whole thing. So look out in your emails for that. But without further ado, we'll get to your questions. If you have anything you want to ask, please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen, and we're happy to get to it. The first question is, will you please share the PowerPoint presentation with everyone? Yes, we will get this out to you after the presentation. AJ has a question. Do wedding venues count as restaurants?
You would have to look on how you're classified under your NAICS code. Most of the time you can access that through I know your tax returns is usually one place where your business has been categorized, but you would have to look at what your primary line of business is. Is it weddings? And so that is a little bit of a problematic, but I would your best bet is to look on how you are classified under your most recent federal and state tax status, where you'll have to list your business type. There's also several websites that will give very good exemplars as to what a business under that 722 class would look like.
Okay, next we have one from David. I have been trying to pre-register since Monday morning, and I've been unable to log into my account. I have called their support number every day and have been told to just wait. The latest I've been told is to wait until Monday. What can I do to actually pre-register? Are there any support numbers that I can call to get support?
Right now, your best bet, I would suggest making sure that you just check everything to make sure that you got that link, and then also customer care at NJEDA.com would probably be the best email to access.
So that's customer care at NJEDA.com?
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll make sure everyone gets that info too. Next is from Webster. I'm a sole proprietor. In the registration process, I classified myself as a part-time 1099 employee. Should I have classified myself as a full-time 1099 employee? If so, can I update that prior to the application day?
I believe that you can update the pre-registration to make sure your details are full and accurate. But what I can do, Chris, is I can shoot an email to somebody on our team and get you an answer, and then you file it back with Webster. Definitely before Tuesday.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
The next one is from AJ. Are businesses that have over 50 employees last year and the beginning of this year, but post-COVID they have less than 50 FTEs, are they eligible?
Good question. So remember, 50 employees isn't 50 full-time equivalents. So full-time equivalent basically means that over the course of, in general, a 13-week period, that person would have worked enough hours to meet that person's average salary would have averaged 40 hours at the minimum wage for 13 weeks. So you have several cases where you might have businesses, especially in the restaurant industry, where you would have somebody who's working part-time, they might have a head count of 50, so they have 50 physical employees, but based on their hours and based on their pay, would only be the equivalent of, say, maybe 30 because they're not working a full 40-hour week as defined in FTEs. One of the things I'd suggest, and this is what we're going to use as the hard and fast rule, take a look at your WR30 and then go to cv.business.nj.gov. That grants calculator, that's going to give you the idea. That's going to let you know how that's going to be calculated, how many FTEs you're going to have as opposed to physical headcount.
All right, thank you. Next, we have David. When counting New Jersey employees, does the owner count or only WR30 employees?
It depends on how the owner is set up. It depends on how the owner, how he or she is set up. Are they like a sole proprietorship, or is it part of, like, do they take a salary as a WR30 employee, or do they take like the profits out at the end? It all depends on how they've paid their taxes over the last 6 quarters. So if the owner regularly counts himself an employee, if they're on the WR30, then the owner counts himself as a WR30 employee. If they take it out at the end of the year, then it would be at the end. I would avoid counting that. However, once again, I'm not a lawyer or accountant. I only play one on TV. I would highly suggest you talk to your payroll professionals, to your accounting professionals, to see how that would be counted. But my educated guess would be that they would not be counted unless they are a regular W30, W2 employee. But check with your accounting and payroll professionals.
And while we're discussing the WR30s, John would just like to clarify what that is and where he files it, and if we could just get some clarification on what that is.
Your WR30 is your employer payroll tax record. So it's the tax record that New Jersey employers with one or more full-time W-2 employees would have to file with the state of New Jersey in order for their New Jersey taxes and then things like New Jersey unemployment insurance, SDI, workman's comp insurance, workman's comp, that sort of thing. So that's filed with the New Jersey Department of Labor if you have more than one W-2 employee. In the case that you have a 1099 employee, that's where we ask for indications on that. In that, we recognize that businesses are structured very differently. That some businesses, may have a lot of 1099 employees because of how they're seasonal, or they have different business trends. And so you may have employees that need to be employed for significant amounts of time during certain seasons and certain, that may not be needed or come on a project basis. And so that's why we're asking on both sides, what's your W-2 and WR30 employees look like, or what does your contract 1099 employee situation look like?
Great. Our next one is from Ecobella. I already applied to phase 2 and have not received anything. What is the difference between phase 2 and phase 3?
Really good question. So phase 2 was limited to 20 employees. It was a cap of $10,000. It was open to every business category in the state of New Jersey, and it was basically a very open forum. It was designed to help as many businesses as we could. With that being said, one of the things we're realizing with the evolution of COVID, with the evolution of how everything's gone, is that there are certain business categories that are being really really heavily impacted, even though everybody's having a tough time. This is unprecedented. It's something that we haven't seen since the 1930s, to be honest. What we're trying to do is work with those businesses, micro businesses, so businesses under 5 people, the restaurant industry, which has been particularly hard hit, to make sure that funding gets to them. So it's a targeted funding. It's a graduated funding in that we're also putting more money out there per grant. This is a much higher per grant amount than we did in previous funding rounds. So we're trying to put that money out there, knowing that that these businesses have had a difficult time, and we want to make sure that they're able to survive and thrive and grow a stronger and fairer New Jersey.
Great. Our next one is from Lisa. Lisa has 3 companies and she uses the same email address for all 3. How can she pre-register for all of them?
Not knowing Lisa's situation, not knowing how Lisa has her business set up, I would assume that Lisa would have to check to see how each entity is set up. To speak in a really general term, what we're going to look at is that while the email may be the same, so it may, what we would look at is we would look at your employer identification, taxpayer identification number. That's what separates out different businesses. So that's going to give us, that's going to let us know how each business is categorized if it's set up independently. We've seen individuals who own 50 different businesses, but if they file 50 different sets of taxes, that's 50 different businesses. Whereas one individual who has one TIN number with 50 different locations, that's categorized as one business. So it depends on how Lisa has set up those businesses and how those businesses pay their taxes and file their business registration and file their New Jersey employment information.
Okay, great. Ashley, what do indoor sports facilities come under? He's not a gym, he's just an indoor sports facility.
Not knowing Ashley's particulars in great detail, what I would say is that Ashley would, if Ashley has under 5 employees, he would come in under the micro business. So if he has under 5 FTEs, he would come in under the micro business. If he has 6 or more FTEs, but less than 50, he would come in under the 3rd tier of small businesses. And then also it depends on where Ashley's location is. Remember, 1/3 of all funding for all 3 tiers is going to be devoted to those businesses that are in opportunity zone eligible census tracts.
Okay, and AJ had a follow-up question to his FTE question from before. Last year in Q1 of this year, he had 100 full-time employees. He's down to 20 now because of COVID. Is he eligible?
I would have to be on. I don't know how we would categorize AJ's situation if he had 100 FTEs and then lost 80% of his staff, depending on how. So what I can do is I can, Chris, if you can email me AJ's information, I can get some insight from him and shoot that up the ladder, because that may be a unique case. That's probably the best connectivity.
Next, we'll go to Ahmed. I might have to follow up with you on this, John, but I've set up an account and got an email to complete my pre-registration. Before finishing pre-registration, I was disconnected and tried to redo the pre-reg, but I kept getting the message that this tax ID number is already filed for pre-registration. Okay. What should he do to complete it?
That's actually a really good question. I can talk offline about this, but I would highly recommend that the gentleman make sure that it's the correct EIN number, that it's making sure that, I've worked with a couple businesses, so we've seen something, so that making sure that nobody else is registered with this, if it's a business partner or somebody like that. It could be something as simple as that, something as simple as a typo, transposing numbers. But if that's not the case, let us know.
Okay, great. I'm just scrolling through here. We are a nonprofit that was turned down for phase 2. Can we reapply for phase 3?
Yes.
All right. Very straightforward. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, please do. We're looking forward to that. The only, just as long as they have to be a 501c3, C4, or C7. So that's 501c3s are just general nonprofits. C4s, I believe, C4s are interest organizations, and then I think C7s are veterans organizations. VFW, American Legion, Iraq and Afghan vets, Vietnam vets, organizations like that.
Okay, and I do see some people have follow-ups to the questions we're asking. We're happy to connect offline here and make sure we get those answered. Yeah, we want to make sure we get answers to these to you guys. So unless there is anything new, we can start to wrap up here.
Could I add just one thing?
Absolutely, Kelly.
Sure, sorry, and I was trying to email some of the responses within there as well. Anybody that has business needs, the SBDC provides no-cost consulting. So we can help the businesses with some of these. I know it's a short turnaround with being pre-registered by the 27th, but if you go to New Jersey SBDC.com, we can provide the free consulting that can help some of these businesses with some of these questions, especially when they're not quite sure, what their NACA code is or some along those ways. Some of the things that we're going to be doing is helping the businesses with getting registered and making sure they get all of their checklists complete and together. So we are more than happy to help with some of these businesses as well. Some of the questions that came out with this, we're here to serve them. So thanks.
Okay, great. And yes, we have a lot of the follow-up questions here, so we'll be following up with you to make sure a lot of these get answered. In the meantime, if you have further questions, you can shoot me an email or call our office. My email is chris.williams@mail.house.gov, and our office number is 973-526-5668. And that's going to conclude our presentation. Again, if you had further questions, we are going to work to help you get those answered. And I can't thank Kelly, John, the whole NJEDA staff enough for being here with us and going over the program and making sure we get funding out for our small businesses. We really appreciate your time.
And, thank you, Chris, and thank you, Kelly. And I can't recommend the work that Kelly's team at SBDC has been doing enough. Please use them. cv.business.nj.gov. We're working hand in glove with our partners, across the board, and then especially with the great work being done by the staff of your New Jersey 11th. So thank you, and bye-bye.
And we will send out the recording of the presentation. So if you're, keep an eye out in your email for that.
Thanks.
Take care, everybody. Thank you again for joining us.
Thanks.
Bye. Have a great day.
Bye.